started. Street No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. Just getting started. Street No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
Good evening, and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues, we only serve the hard stuff. It's the Chief, and I'm here with Thin Bad. How you doing, Thin Bad?
I'm doing well, mate.
All right.
Middle of another week.
Yes, sir. We've made it through another week, and tonight, Thin Bad, of course, we are still in the COVID mode. Right now, we are rapidly approaching about 189,000 people who have died and even millions more who have been infected. And of course, that is a sad commentary as to where we are. And hopefully we're getting closer towards some type of resolution when we'll get the word that the coast is clear and we could come out and start doing things again. But in the meantime, we certainly hope everyone is staying masked up and prayed up and doing those things that will avoid you having any parts of this terrible disease. And Thin Bad, one of the other side effects of this COVID-19 situation is there's been a spike in domestic violence that has occurred across the country. And that's just something that, along with the infections and the deaths, that is definitely unwanted. And certainly something that is unacceptable. And we're just trying to figure out tonight, is it because folks are stuck in the house too long, or is something else sinister going on? So to help us tonight is Dr. Marie Wakefield. Dr. Wakefield, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. And we certainly appreciate you coming on to talk about this very important topic with us tonight. And for those that don't know, you are in for a treat, because Dr. Wakefield is a very well-renowned expert, if you will, in domestic violence, particularly in the Las Vegas metropolitan area. Just a little bit of her credentials. Not only is she a renowned counselor, but she is the former president of the American Counseling Association, former president of the Southern Nevada School Counselor Association, and former president of the Association for Adult Development and Aging. And one of the other roles that she has that she is well known for in the Las Vegas area is that she is the coordinator for the Standing Together Opposing Misusing Power program, which is also known as STOMP. And it is one of the signature programs of the Las Vegas alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Of course, Dr. Wakefield is a proud member of that incredible sorority. And we wanted to bring her on to talk about this topic because in the years that she has coordinated the STOMP program, which is a program designed to give people access to resources and other information regarding domestic violence, she has been an advocate for a long time for support and prevention and other related things surrounding domestic violence. So without any further ado, we welcome you again to the show, Dr. Wakefield.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to jump right into this because this is such an important topic, domestic violence. And I guess I'm going to start with the obvious question, Dr. Wakefield. And why do you think that there has been an increase in domestic violence?
I think we need to take a step back before we ask why there is an increase, because we need to understand that we were already at a high rate. Nevada has been at a high rate for a long time. There was a period of time that we were number one in the nation for 5 years consecutively. So we have had these issues going on for a while. We've got the statistic that says 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence or stalking or rape and those kinds of things. And we also have had situations where, children have been involved in situations where they're living in these homes where domestic violence occurs at least once or twice during the course of the year. And we also have had situations where we have an age range of common partner violence. For example, women between the ages of 18 to 24 and men between the ages of 18 and 24 as well experience some of these things. So I want to say, first of all, the rate was already high. And now we have this problem with the COVID and those kinds of things. We've got these stay-at-home orders that and the schools are not reopening, and then we're in close quarters. We've got stressors as it relates to a lot of activities that we would normally engage in. We're not engaging in, whether it's kids that should have been going to camp this year, for example, or we have situations where families feel crowded, frustrated, and they're, in these close quarters, and we're isolated from our extended families and friends, and we don't, we're not experiencing some of those activities that we really, really enjoy. And even when family members are ill, we can't visit them. There's so many things that are holding us back from being able to do the things that we normally do. And of course, loss of jobs is a big issue. Financial stressors are really crazy for people. So there's so many things to handle at this point, whether you have children or not. And even pets experience the residual of domestic violence. So,
Sure.
There's so many things going on. So, and then I also want to mention the fact that, we've had these myths that domestic violence only occurs for poor women, for example, or women of color, or they deserve to be hit, or we've got alcohol, drug abuse, mental illness, those kinds of things. Those were already there. But now it's compounded by the COVID and the kinds of things that are forcing us to be in relationships that are already strained, already tough. And now we've got to handle it and try to figure out how we can communicate and survive in these tight spaces and with the losses that we've experienced.
It's a whole lot, as you said, to begin with. And then now, as you said, it was all exacerbated by what we're dealing with. Because on the one hand, you've got, now it's not, sometimes where it's not safe to be in the house. And now you're forced to be in the house because it's not safe to go outside. So it's like, what do you do? And as difficult as that situation is under normal circumstances, I can only imagine that the numbers have increased probably dramatically across the nation. I don't know what the uptick is, but I think I was reading something where it was about 9 or 10% increase, but it may be even higher in cases or calls. I think to or contacts. I think they call them, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, with chats and calls and texts. And I don't know. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know that there are people, who are suffering through this. But what kind of advice can we give to folks who may find themselves in this situation, under these circumstances? I don't know. That's an open question. I know it's broad, but I just don't know. It just seems so much more on top of what's already there, and how do we keep folks encouraged, or how do we let them know to get help, under these conditions?
Well, first of all, you need to pay attention to the warning signs. I mean, it's one thing to be have the normal stressors of the day, but in situations like this, for example, I know a family member who I would have thought was very mellow for the most part, but I've noticed because he doesn't have a job, his level of frustration is higher. His conversations are such that, you know, when I'm having a personal conversation with him, he's very short, very curt with the responses. And I say that to say because sometimes we need to look at these signs as things are building. You know what, and it's, I'm sure it's very normal. I mean, men want to be able to take care of their families. They don't have a job, but yeah, that frustration is definitely there. So we might pay attention to some of these verbal or emotional hurts, those kinds of things they're putting out there. And the thing about it is that you have to think about domestic violence and how we define it. Domestic violence is about control. And so now, all of a sudden, there is no control. If the person doesn't have the job, the person doesn't have certain places that they're used to being able to go, certain activities they're used to being able to do, have that kind of control over what was going on in their households, they don't have it anymore. So now we're faced with looking at those kinds of issues. And there's all, you know, and everybody that may not even realize that they're experiencing domestic violence. I mean, you know, most people think of domestic violence and will focus toward the physical aspect of it, but there's an emotional part of it. I mean, sometimes in terms of the emotional side of it, you know, sometimes you know, there's some insulting remarks or name calling or humiliating. Sometimes there's some jealousy going on or lying to each other, cheating, those kinds of things. There's the psychological abuse where you may be controlling someone's time or monitoring where they go, what they wear, what they do, you know. So we have sexual abuse and coercion where you're forcing or manipulating someone to perform some sexual acts that they are not necessarily wanting to do. There's gaslighting where you're saying things to make you question your perception of reality, you know. So these kinds of things are going on, you know, almost without recognition that this is occurring. So I think, first of all, I mean, we have to be aware of the kinds of things that have changed in our relationships that used to be, you know, a certain way. You might be thinking, you know, listening to our very threatening kinds of things. Are there episodes of explosive kinds of things that happen, whether it's explosive anger? It could be a number of things, or just a harassing attitude, or just change in the attitude. Mm-hmm. So there's things that you really have to pay attention to. And so the thing about it is that I think we need to think about, if this would occur, what would I need to make sure I have in order? And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. I'm just saying, maybe you just want to make sure you have some things in place for yourself and your children, or just you if you're alone. So you may want to find a place that you can retreat to safely. Where can you go? Are you friends with neighbors? Do you have a friend that's down the block, or, you know, maybe so far away? But but even in your household, sometimes in your own house, you may need to have a place that you go that's safe for you. And it may not necessarily heard where they have said avoid a bathroom or a kitchen. And I think the kitchen, because of the number of items in the kitchen that could be weapons. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's suggested that not be a place that you go in your own household. But you might be able to find a place in your house that is safe for you, especially maybe if something is escalating, that you're both in a cooling period. Maybe it is your bedroom or another room in the house somewhere that's, you know, the library, the study, the living room, the family room. I don't know, but you know your house. And so